It's just before midnight on the North Atlantic. The sea is so calm it looks like black glass. The stars are out. On board the largest moving object ever built by human hands, 2,200 people are asleep, dining, playing cards. In 2.5 hours, 1,500 of them will be dead. And here's what almost nobody tells you about this story. It wasn't one catastrophic failure that killed them. It was 6 small ones. 6 moments where a key, a message, a pair of binoculars, any one of them could have changed everything. This is the story of the 6 times the Titanic could have been saved. April 1912. The Titanic is the pride of an age that believed technology had beaten nature. 16 watertight compartments. A double bottom. The press called her practically unsinkable. And somewhere along the way, people stopped saying practically. She carried lifeboats for about half the people on board. Not because of a mistake, because the regulations said that was enough. Nobody imagined a scenario where everyone would need one at once. That confidence, that certainty that the worst couldn't happen, is the real character in this story. Now count the warnings with me, because they start before she even reaches open water. Days before the voyage, the ship's second officer was replaced at the last minute. In the shuffle, the departing officer walked off the ship, carrying something in his pocket he'd forgotten to hand over. A key. The key to the locker, believed to hold the binoculars for the crow's nest, the lookout's eyes at the top of the mast. For the entire voyage, the men whose only job was to spot danger ahead scanned the black horizon with nothing but their naked eyes. One of the surviving lookouts said it plainly at the inquiry afterwards. With binoculars, they'd have seen the iceberg sooner. Maybe soon enough. One key. That was warning one. The second was written down 7 separate times. All day on April 14th, other ships in the North Atlantic had been sending the Titanic warnings. Ice ahead, icebergs, a vast field of it directly across her path. At least 7 warnings arrived that day. Some reached the bridge, some didn't. The wireless operators didn't work for the captain. They worked for a telegraph company, and their paying job was sending passengers personal messages to shore. The backlog was enormous. When a nearby ship cut in that evening to say it was completely stopped, surrounded by ice, the exhausted operator tapped back words to the effect of, "Shut up, I'm busy." That ship's operator switched off his set and went to bed. Remember that ship. It comes back at the worst possible moment. Despite the warnings that did reach the bridge, the Titanic did not slow down. She kept driving forward at close to her top speed, around 22 knots, into a moonless night toward a known ice field. By the standards of the time, this was normal practice. Clear night, calm sea, post lookouts and press on. Every captain did it. That's the uncomfortable truth. The Titanic wasn't being reckless by 1912's rules. The rules themselves were the flaw. A flat, calm sea sounds like a blessing. That night, it was a trap. No waves meant no white water breaking at an iceberg's base, the one thing that makes ice visible in darkness. So when the ice finally came, it came with almost no warning at all. 11:40 p.m. The lookout sees a black mass where stars should be. 3 rings of the bell. The phone to the bridge. Iceberg, right ahead. The officer orders the turn. The engines are cut. And for 37 seconds, 2,200 people's lives hang on physics. A ship the length of 3 football pitches trying to swerve. She almost makes it. That's the agony of it. The iceberg doesn't hit her head-on. It scrapes along her side, a glancing blow, below the waterline, popping rivets and opening seams across 6 compartments. She could survive 4 flooded compartments, not 6. From that moment, the Titanic wasn't a ship having an accident. She was a countdown. And warning 4 had already happened, years earlier, on a drawing board. The watertight compartments, the thing that made her unsinkable, had a flaw hiding in plain sight. The walls between them didn't go all the way up. As the bow filled and dipped, water simply spilled over the top of each wall into the next compartment, like an ice cube tray tilting. The very design meant that once enough compartments flooded, the rest would follow, one by one, in order. She'd been built to survive a head-on crash or a burst seam. Nobody had designed her for a long, shallow scrape down the side. The engineers had imagined the wrong disaster. 2 more warnings left. And the 5th is the one that still makes people angry. A century later, as the Titanic sank, her crew fired distress rockets into the night. White bursts, one after another, and on the horizon, visible from the Titanic's own deck, sat the lights of another ship. Most historians believe it was the Californian, the same ship whose ice warning had been brushed off hours earlier, the same ship whose radio operator had switched off and gone to bed. Her officers saw the rockets. They discussed them. They woke their captain more than once. No one turned the wireless back on. The ship never came. She was close enough that some believe she could have reached the Titanic before the end. Instead, 1,500 people went into water below freezing. And warning 6 is why so few came back out. There were only lifeboats for half. That was warning 6, and it had been signed off before she ever sailed. But the crueler detail is this. The boats that did launch went away underfilled. The first left with barely 24 people in a boat built for 65. The crew hadn't drilled properly. Officers, unsure the davits would take the weight, sent boats down half empty, meaning to fill them from doors lower in the hull, doors that were never opened. Over 400 seats went into the sea unused. 400. 6 warnings, a key, a message, the speed, the walls, a sleeping radio, the empty seats. Change any one of them, and this is a different story. The sea was flat calm the whole night. The stars never went in. It was, by every measure, a perfect night for sailing, right up until it became the most famous disaster in maritime history. The quiet before tells these stories, the ordinary moments right before everything changed. If this one held you, subscribe. Next time, a ship found sailing the Atlantic in perfect order, cargo intact, food in the galley, and not one soul on board. Until then, calm water hides more than it shows.